Hello everyone, this is Maureen and welcome to my crochet story where I share with you two things that I love, teaching and crochet. Today is another episode of Basic Stitches and we will be talking about the Trinity stitch here in just a few moments. First, I want to say thank you to everyone that is stopping by. If you are one of my regular subscribers, thank you again so much for being here to check out my content. Now, if you're new to my channel, take a moment to see what content it is that I have. And if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit the notification bell that has little hugs around it so that you don't miss any content that I put up. So, today is about the Trinity stitch. Now, I love this stitch because it's very simple. It makes a gorgeous, gorgeous little pattern there. See it? Now, many people confuse the Trinity stitch with the star stitch. And I always like to say that the Trinity stitch is just a precursor or a nice little warm-up to learning the star stitch. Now, what I have for you today with the Trinity stitch is another ear warmer. Now, you may be getting tired of making ear warmers, but you know what's nice about an ear warmer? It doesn't take that long to make up, number one. Number two, it is a great way to learn a new stitch. So, if you're ready, I use some 4-way Red Heart Super Saver yarn acrylic. You can make it out of any weight that you want. You can make it out of any, use any hook, so long as it's a recommended hook size for the yarn that you're using. I also used my brand new J hook. This is a Furls. It is the size J, which is what's recommended for this particular 4-weight from Super Saver. And it is the J hook, but just look how pretty that hook is. Folks, I waited probably 6-8 months, I don't know, but forever to get my hands on a set of these hooks. Now, I didn't get all of them. I mean, I'm still lacking 2, but hopefully the next time they come out, I can grab those just as soon as they hit the market. But this is my first project with this hook. Very excited to use it, and I loved it. So, anyway, grab you some yarn, grab you a hook, and I'll see you after the intermission in just a moment. Alrighty, so I have some 4-weight worsted yarn acrylic. Now you can use this in any yarn, any hook, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be using my brand new J hook streamline metal from Furls. I was so excited that I was able to catch some of these this time, so I will be using a J hook with my 4-weight. Now again, as I said, you can use any yarn that you want with the recommended hook size. Now if you go up a hook size, it's just going to give the stitch a little drape or flow to it. So for this particular stitch, the Trinity stitch, you will need to crochet an even number of stitches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crochet 18. So I'm going to go ahead and loop my yarn, make my knot that will hook my yarn to my hook, and I'm going to chain 18. So there are my chains. Now again, since it's an even number of stitches, you can make this as wide as you want. I'm just going to be doing a sample piece for you, but I would like to suggest that you work this up into a very nice scarf length, which I would do about 24 chains if it was me, 24 to 36, no more than that, if you're going to make a nice scarf. Now, the very first thing we're going to do is, I've told you in the past that whenever I'm making a article, whether it be a washcloth, a scarf, anything that's going to have a permanent edge on it, like this is going to have, and I know for certain that I'm not going to add any fringe or a border, I like to work into what we call the third loop of your chain. Now, the first two loops of your chain are these little V's here that you've created whenever you made the chain. But if you take your chain and turn it over, there is this third little loop, some folks call it a bar, in the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work starting in the second chain from the hook. I'm going to roll this over and I'm going to go into this back bar here. And I'm going to make a single crochet. And then I'm going to make a single crochet in each stitch, or each, chain, all the way back, so that I have a nice pretty edge here to start my Trinity stitch with. Now, a lot of folks will just go ahead and start right on into the chain, making the Trinity stitch. That is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I like to just give my item, whatever it might be, a nice pretty starting edge. You can tell I'm struggling here just a little bit, only because number one, I'm new using the hook, and I'm still kind of feeling my way with it. It's not because it's heavy or anything, it's just that the head part here is a little bit longer than my baits, and so I'm going to have to learn how to manipulate that just a little more, but that just takes time with working with what I've got. I need to pull myself out some more yarn here, and of course I had to have a yarn barf right there. Let's see if I can get that untwisted without having to stop anything there. We'll see how that does. So again, just going along the edge here, working in that back bar of my chain. And this does take a little time to do, but you know, it's like I've always told you in the very beginning of your project, especially with your chain, when you're working in it, take the time to make sure that your stitches are even. You're getting a nice foundation for your piece. Never rush it. Now, if you don't wish to work in this back bar of your chain, you don't have to do that. Like I said, it's just a preference of mine. And coming down to this last one now, sometimes it's kind of hard to see where that bar is, but if you just kind of turn your chain around, you'll be able to find it. Alrighty, there we are. Now it's going to curl just a little bit, that's okay, but see how it gives it a nice little edging there? You almost can't tell what's the top and what's the bottom. Alright, so we're going to chain one to give us our lift for the row and turn our work. Now you're always going to start and end with a single crochet when you're working the Trinity stitch. So we're going to start with a single crochet. Alright. Now, remember I told you that there was a little story that went along with the Trinity stitch when my grandma was teaching me how to do this? Well, if you know anything about the Bible, the Trinity relates to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. So she always liked to, when she was doing the Trinity stitch, she would say Father, Son, Holy Ghost, and then tie it off with me. So in order to make the Trinity stitch, we're going to go right back into this single crochet that we just worked. And we're going to go in and pull up a loop. Now we're going to go in and pull up a loop in the next two stitches. We're not going to finish off our single crochet. Go into the next one, pull up a loop, and go into the next one and pull up a loop. Alright, we'll have 4 loops on our hook. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through all 4 loops, and then we're going to cinch it with a chain 1. Now make sure that this chain 1 is about the same size as the loop on the top of your Trinity stitch here, because you're going to have to come back in and work into that in just a little bit when we come back across this row. So you don't want it tight. Alright, so let me tell you the story behind the Trinity stitch. So in order to start the Trinity stitch, we're going to go right back into this stitch that we just finished with. So I'm going in for the Father, going into the next stitch for the Son, going into the next stitch for the Holy Ghost. Father, Son, Holy Ghost, and I'm going to pull them all together for me, and then I'm going to lock it down with the chain 1. Now I hope that you can see the pretty little stitch here that is starting to make. Let's do that again. We've already got our chain 1 here. Go back into that first stitch we just made. Father, Son, Holy Ghost. 4 loops on my hook. Tie them all together with me. Do your chain 1. Again, make sure it's pretty loose. And we'll do it again. Go back into that same loop stitch we just finished. There's 1. Go into the next one. There's 2. Go into the next one. There's 3. 4 loops on your hook. Tie them all together. And here's our chain 1. And you notice that my chain 1 for each one is just about the same size as my loop here for my stitch. Let's do it again. Go back into that same loop, or excuse me, stitch, pull up a loop. Now go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop. 4 loops on the hook, yarn over, bring them all together, and then my loose chain 1. And since we're almost to the end here, I'm going to continue on with you. Four loops, yarn over, pull through all 4, yarn over, make a chain. Yarn over. Lacey, no. And do my chain. Now you're going to come down to just 2 stitches on your row, and that's okay because we can still get one more Trinity stitch here, except we're going to finish it off just a little bit differently. So we're going to go in, pull up our loop, go in, pull up our loop, go into the last stitch here, pull up a loop. There are my 4 loops, yarn over, and pull through all 4. Now instead of making a chain, what we're going to do is we're going to go back right into this stitch here, the very last one, and we're just going to make a single crochet. And there is my first row of Trinity stitches. So we're always going to start the row with a single crochet, and we're always going to end the row with a single crochet. All right, so let's chain 1, turn our work. Let me get a little more yarn here. And we're going to start again. Now remember I said we're going to start the row and end the row with a single crochet. So we're going right back into this stitch here, making our first single crochet. All right, now here we start with the Trinity stitch again. Go back into that stitch, pull up a loop. go into the next stitch and the next stitch. There's our 4 loops, yarn over, pull through, make our, again, that chain 1, and you can look at it, just pull it off to the side there a little bit and make sure that your 2 stitches have about the same loop size. Here we go again, back into our stitch, pull up a loop, that chain 1 from below, pull up a loop, the top of our Trinity stitch here, go in, pull up a loop, there's our 4 loops, pull through, and again make a chain 1. And we just continue like we did before. Very nice, easy 1 row repeat, makes a very nice, beautiful stitch. And you'll find that you can run through this stitch and your rows pretty quickly once you get the hang of what you're doing. Four loops, yarn over, pull through, trying to keep that chain 1 with the same loop size as my stitch, so that it makes it easier when I come back in and crochet another row. Now here we're down again to our last 2 stitches, but we can still get 1 more Trinity out of here. So here we go. But remember, when we make that last Trinity stitch, we are not going to make a chain 1. We're going to come right back in where we finished off and make a single crochet. Now look at that. It makes a very nice, almost solid texture, but not quite. I mean, you can still see a little bit of daylight through there, but watch what this does. Look at that nice stretch that it gives, which makes it great for washcloths if you're working in cotton, because you have this texture here that allows you to scrub whatever you need to scrub. It collects whatever it needs to, but it's soft enough that it won't, you know, be abrasive or anything. Of course, that also depends on the type of yarn you're using, but it has a nice give to it, and it's because of all these loops that you've put in there when you're making the stitch. And I really like it. It's the same on both sides. Very, very nice, beautiful stitch. Now, as I said, if you were to make this into a scarf, or even as long or as wide, this is wide enough to make a gorgeous, gorgeous headband, or ear warmer, I should say, which is probably what I will end up doing. So we're starting our next row, going to make a single crochet, and go right back into that stitch, pull up a loop, go in, pull up a loop, go into the top of our Trinity stitch from below, trying to find the wrap there. There's our 4 loops, yarn over, pull through all 4 loops, and make our chain 1. And we're ready to go again on another row. Back into the stitch, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, 4 loops, yarn over, pull through all 4, make our chain 1. And I'm going to finish off with just reminding you of Grandma's saying, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, and me. I can just hear her now sitting here beside me. The Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, and me. I hope you have some sweet memories of when you were being taught how to crochet, especially every time you were taught a new stitch. Those memories stay with you, you know. And I love passing on my little stories of when I learned to crochet, especially if it brings back a sweet memory for me of my grandma. Be sure and get my chain one in there. And my last stitch. There we go. Now I think I'll hang out with you for just a little bit. I think what I am going to do with mine is make myself a nice, pretty ear warmer. So I'll be back with you in just a few minutes to let you know how many rows I made to finish off an ear warmer for myself. Be back in just a minute. All right, so I have finished 54 rows, which gave me 20 inches. Now look at this nice piece of textile I have here. Isn't that really pretty? I just love, love, love this stitch. It gives its own nice little ridges, very defined little rows there. I just really love it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back, and here on the very last row, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a row of single crochets. So let me get my yarn back on my hook here. I've already got my chain one. Well, let me come back around over here and make sure I've got my hook in there correctly. Yes. Chain one and turned. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and put one single crochet in each stitch across in the top of each of my Trinity stitches and in each one of my chain one spaces. And then I'm going to chain one and turn my work again. Now this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I am going to bring my edges together and I'm going to slip stitch all the way across here to make a seam. So I'm going to go into this first stitch here and I'm going to line it up with the first single crochet on the other end. Remember, a slip stitch, we just go through and then we pull it through again. So now I'm going to go through the inside loops, which means the back loop of this first stitch and the front loop of the next stitch, and slip stitch them together. Back loop, front loop, and you'll see that they are just those inside loops there, and bring them together. This is going to make a nice seam without it being too bulky. There it is. Come in here to the end. And you should see where your stitches will line up together there. Oh, I want to go through both as I did before. Give it a little bit more substantial stitch there at the end, and I'm just going to go ahead and make that a single crochet and close it off. Then I'm going to cut me off some string here. I'm going to go ahead and just pull that through. Alright, and see, it gives it a nice seam here, and then when I turn it wrong side out, gives it a nice little seam on the outside. So now all I have to do here, I'm just going to kind of knot these together a little bit before I sew them in. Now, I like my ear warmers to be very, plain. You could always come back in here and get you some string and gather this up if you would like to make it pleated. In fact, if you cut your tail long enough here, you could just come through here and wrap it several times if you would like. Make it a really nice bunchy ear warmer. You could also come back in and hot glue a pretty flower there, or a button, a brooch even, just whatever it is that you would like. So there's many ways to finish it off once you get it seamed together. But I like mine to just be plain, tubular, and I think that that's how I'm going to leave mine. So I hope that you have enjoyed working with this stitch. I hope that you completed something like a either a scarf or a head warmer, such as I have done here. Okay, so I hope that you've enjoyed this. As always, be the light out there in the darkness for someone today, because you never know. It could be your light that they need to see. Thank you again for stopping by and watching this tutorial. I hope that you will take this stitch and do something fantastic with it. I love you all. Bye.